Hi, thank you for clicking on this video. Basically, what it is about 2 or so years ago, I think it's about that time, I really fancied upgrading my MPC 2500 to get to the MPC X because of the touchscreen sampling and the CV gate outs and a few other things, and the new software seemed quite interesting. And to cut a long story short, I decided to buy the One, as you can see you here. It isn't the One Plus, but the hardware is essentially the same. There's a couple of the main differences is I think there's more internal memory and you gain Wi-Fi connectivity, which doesn't really impact me too much. So this video still applies for the One Plus going to the One, but what has happened now, I've been so happy with the One and I absolutely adore this machine. I've been so productive in 2023 and 2024 actually completing pieces of music, and really enjoyed doing it as well, which is even more useful. So I don't do this for a living or anything. I decided to go ahead and get the One. And so this video is about the transition, if you like, a comparison. And it's not saying one machine is better than the other. They are different machines. And this is basically just my discourse on it, really, and hope you find it interesting. Well, I just found out that I somehow, and I have really no idea how, lost about 5 minutes of video. That's how come you've got the intro, you've just got where the One's just sitting there, not switched on or anything. And then the only other bit I really wanted to do is, and I'm doing this handheld just because, is talk about the screen. I assume it's because of the software and to save glitches and everything else, but there is no difference when it comes to the screen in terms of what's displayed. So what I'm saying is, for instance, in song mode, which is why we're on this one, you see we've got 8. I'm on the X here, and you've still got 8. The One does the same. Is you've got the first 8 lots of your song mode showing. So that's all you get. So all it is that the X screen displays a little bigger. I was hoping that it would actually put more lines of song mode on. So, and if you want to know more about what I think about song mode in the MPC X and One, I've done a video about that on the One. But I actually can show you now because I had to go and get the One because I found out I'd lost some more video as well. I don't know what quite was being going on, but you can see how much narrow it is and you can see how much taller it is. But like I say, what's actually displayed is exactly the same. The bit of video I lost, I was talking about the back of the machines. One of the big things you gain with the X is the individual outs. There's 6 individual outs as well as the main stereo, and I always think you need at least a pair. That's the big problem with budget machines, I think, is that one will do for some sources like a bass drum, but ideally you want the stereo available separately, so that if you want to process it separately, or what I do quite a lot is in the studio is so I can put less reverb on the bass drum and this sort of thing. It's less drastic with the One because you do so much of it within the machine, so that you're producing a master at your stereo out, but individual outs are always welcome. The other thing to mention on the One and the X is where just because the X is different, I'm not saying either's better or worse. It just means you need different leads, which is, I had to buy some more leads, which is always the joys of being an electronic musician. But these are in effect stereo 3.5mm jacks, and you need 4 of them. And on the X, you've got 8 mono 3.5mm jacks. So it's just that you do need different leads, so I couldn't just switch them out. But then the One wasn't in my studio before, so it was separate. So I did, as I say, it's just interesting that they did it differently. I assume it means 8 mono jacks is cheaper than 4 stereo jacks, or sockets I should say, but that's just me being cynical. But yeah, just to show you the physical size difference, that's how much real estate you gain with. So, the size obviously doesn't really matter if you're just having it on a table or something. The weight is something to bear in mind if you're going to travel around, and that's actually the main reason I'm keeping my one. The plan is that it's something I can have around the house and take on holiday with me, which I have done a few times, and actually use it as a notes machine, an ideas machine. And of course, it's all transferable over to the X perfectly straightforwardly with an SD card. Although what I have to say, what I've mostly done is I've actually just moved the external drive, because I have an external drive on the one, and I can just copy it. Well, I'll do it on the computer. I'll just take the external drive from the X as well, and I'll copy it over on the computer. It's one of the things I was hoping would be better on the X, is about file management, and it is a little bit easier, but it's the same. If you really want to get into any sort of detail and copying and pasting and all that sort of stuff, you've got to hook your drives up to a computer, and that's actually one of the reasons all my stuff I keep on external drives on my MPCs, because then you can just take it to the computer. I don't have a computer in my studio, and there never will be. If you have one in yours, good for you. Yeah, as long as you enjoy it, you're making music, that's great. But it's just not something that interests me. Yeah, so this is getting back to my thing, is that they're not the same machine. Even though the software is the same, they're designed with different purposes. I think even though it's got less controls, I could see performing with the one more, because it's actually less complicated. You're less likely to go wrong, and it's quite immediate and in your face, which there's no reason the X can't be either. But I don't know. It's hard to say. It's subjective, but the one to me feels more like something you would play with live, whereas the X is a studio machine. And there's lots of things that make it much more of a studio machine. One of the single biggest one for me, obviously, is the 4 media outs, because I actually need those to go to all my various pieces of kit. And yes, I do have that many pieces of kit. I'm not boasting or anything. I've just kept all the gear I've bought. My first synth in 1984, and I've actually got all of it except for I think I've sold off about 4 or 5 items, maybe total, and I'm just in the process of selling off a few bits and pieces on eBay and Reverb now. I've decided can go as part of incorporating the X into the studio. There's a couple of pieces of gear I'm torn about, but that might be a thing for another video. So it's all about the hardware. So yes, we've seen the size difference. So what are the key differences? Well, obviously, again, one of the reasons I decided to go for the upgrade, I'm not sure if that's the right word, the gains, I would say, rather than improvement, is obviously the displays on the Q-Link knobs, because on the one, yes, you can look at it on the screen. And this is one of the themes I'll have, is that there's more things you don't need the screen for on the X. It's all there on the one, but you have to fiddle with the screen. You need to go into preferences, or you need to go into Q-Link edit, or whatever it is. You can do a lot more off the screen, if you like, on the X. And obviously one of the best things is the display. Is the displays on the Q-Link. And this is something I use quite a lot. If I go into step editing, these two here, horizontal scroll and horizontal zoom, I use constantly. If I ever decide to get that involved with editing on the one, I might see if I can do it on the one as well. But I use these constantly because of doing little tweaks, or it's actually sometimes you just want to say put a little ghost hit on a snare towards the end of a bar or something. It's much quicker just to pop in and do it on the step sequencer than it is to play it. So those two have been probably about the single biggest gain on the switching to the X. But obviously, because they're contextual displays, they are contextual. Excuse me. So if I go, let's see, sorry, I did plan this sort of. So if I go to a plugin and actually go into edit it, see all the knob, you can see all the displays have changed, and this means if you've actually the sequence can be playing. It is only something that's the very start of my idea, but you can now twiddle the synth in real time, like it was it's not making a noise, but because I've only just turned it on. But basically, you can now play the synth controls, and they're actually recordable as well. So, so that is again something that you could do on the one, I suspect, if you delved into it. But it's just a piece of piss on the X, sorry. So, so brilliant, and something I will do more of. I've only just cottoned onto that a few days ago, and it was part of the idea that made me think about doing this video. That's available. While we're on things that I use a lot, up here, the program, sample edit, pad mixer, and channel mixer. Those two buttons in particular, the pad mixer and the channel mixer, I use constantly. So you can have a sequence playing, and you just go, oh, hang on, so let me get on to drum program, and you go, oh, I just want to turn this pad up, and you can just click on it, and you're there, and you can play with it. Again, you don't. This constant theme is that you can do that on the one, but you've got to go into the screen. And yes, the sequence will still play, but you've got to go onto the screen, into the menu, whereas this takes you straight there. And that again, this is where I think actually, I don't always think Akai use musicians, but every now and again I think they do in their design, and that's some of them is that you will pop into and adjust. And the one for the channel mixer, again, when I'm doing my final mix down, I'm in and out of that all the time as well. And again, you can just pop there quickly, and then of course pop straight back to your sequence by pressing the main button like you can on all the MPCs. So just really, really good. The only thing I dislike that I think's made worse on the X is there's the shift button, and there's your bank buttons for your different pads. And so you've got to press, if you want bank E, you've got to press shift, and you press button for A. So I'm now on bank E on the pads, but you need two hands. You don't need two hands on the X. On the one, sorry, I will get this right. I keep getting the wrong way around, don't I? So on the one, you see, you can press. There you go. You just need one hand, and it should be for any musician. You should be able to do that without too much difficulty. But the X, you need two hands, or you need a second person if you're one-armed or something. And that's a bit of a pain in the bum. But it's because in the middle of a piece of music or something, especially if you're recording live, that has been a nuisance, I have to say. But it's something I can live with. It's not going to. Again, it's never. None of this stuff's going to be a deal breaker. Whatever I moan about on the X none of it's a deal breaker. I am very, very pleased with my purchase. But part of that is it's a planned purchase, and you could argue the plan started 2 years ago. When I bought the one, to see if I actually liked the software. Talking about software, the Akai has released version. This is version 2 point whatever it is software, and Akai are beta testing the software revision 3, and they're actually fundamentally changing a lot of things. It's actually going to change the workflow, which is worrying for me. My plan at this time is I won't be updating. And it's under my control because they're not connected to Wi-Fi or anything. There can't be any automatic updates like your computer does. So because I've been doing MPCs for so long, I'll show you. Also, I'll just fold the screen down a bit. You've got your 6 styles of programs here. That's your drum program, plugins. This is plugin, not VST plugins. This is plugins on the in the Akai sense. I mean, it is. So let me go to a program. Track's got it. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'll do that one. There we go. So there's a tube synth plugin, and that's its preset that's on at that particular time. And then you've got key groups, which is chromatic samples. You've got clips, which I've never played with. You've got the MIDI, and you've also got your CV gates, which I'll talk about a bit more in a moment. And they're taking some of that away. They're changing that bit, and that to me is like, I'm used to that. I've been doing it for 20 years. I don't want that to change, so I won't be updating my software. It might well be brilliant. And the other thing, of course, is being your software, is it going to be stable, not crash in the middle of your project before you saved it and things. Quick mention of something that I learnt from getting the X, but realised the One could do it as well, is shift and save is a bit of a lifesaver as well. I love that. And you can actually do it while it's playing as well. It takes a little bit longer, but it does it. I actually went back and looked at the One, because the One hasn't been on very much in recent times, because I've been enjoying myself with the X and incorporated it into the studio. But that is just get in the habit of doing it every now and again. I turned off the automatic. You can have it save itself automatically every 10 minutes, I think it is, something like that. But it was doing it in strange places, and sometimes it did interrupt things. It depends what you're doing, whether it actually interrupts what you're doing. And so I turned it off, and I just remembered to do it myself. Talking about, earlier I mentioned about projects on the, starting a project on the One and bringing it to the X. And I've actually brought them all in that I've started, because I have loads. I'll show you. So I do keep lowering this up and down. You see, you can tell this is where I don't entirely plan these things. So if I go in the browser, so the MPC X is my external drive, as you remember I said. And so current project, we're in the current project folders already. So these are all projects I've started. And what this actually means is I've got a group of sounds together. So if I get a different one, yeah, let's try that one. Couldn't tell you anything about it without checking my notes about what I've done about it. Yeah. Oh, and look, we're straight into there. So that'll be a One program. One project that I've imported, brought into the X, and obviously that's something I've used on that particular project that I've not got on the X for whatever reason. Whether that's my fault because I've not updated it correctly, whether it's deliberate on Akai's part or whatever, I actually can't tell you. I've no idea. But it's something I just haven't bothered investigating. I've only run into that issue once before, where I hadn't got the air chorus on the X, and it's just not something to faff about sorting out. Connecting this back up to the computer if I can put the air chorus on it. I'm really not that bothered. It's not like there isn't any other choruses on here or anything. And for the context of a just started project, it doesn't matter. I can do something else. So, sorry if I just go it back a little bit more. Might be able to see a bit better. So, let's see if I go into, sorry, it was air chorus, wasn't it? Dynamics, no. Harmonic, isn't it? No, it might be. Oh, I can never remember the categories on these things. So it might be modulation. Yeah, flanger. Oh, yeah, multi-chorus. See, I've got an air multi-chorus, and it might be that's what's happened. Is the X has got an upgraded version? I don't know. So it's not like you haven't got these two other choruses there. So it, and then I've forgotten what this project, when I loaded it, I've forgotten what it said it hadn't got. But I'll guarantee you I've got the similar effect. So I'm really not that bothered. As part of, I mean, I've brought some of my MPC 2500 programs over, and actually one of them I've already completed. But it wasn't starting from scratch, but I had quite a bit of work to do, because the MPC 2500, the only thing I ever did on it was drums. Any chromatic stuff was MIDI outs to synthesizers, and so I had to obviously set that up on this one, because it didn't directly translate, and it's straightforward enough. I'm sorry, I will quickly show you. You can tell this is where you can tell where I haven't planned it much. So click on the MIDI button. You see what would tend to happen is it would be on the right MIDI channel for my synthesizer, because I've left all my synths on the same channels. So let's say one was on output D on and number 5, it'd be on number 5 on the MIDI channel, but this wouldn't be set. So I had to go into the project I was working on and change it. And there you go. Well, so I was wondering why I didn't make a noise, and that's because I haven't turned that synthesizer on. It's behind me and switched off. So one of the interesting things I've run into is that the program change here, which obviously is where you can set, that's going to bring on program 0, that will bring on program 1 on the synth, synths with memories obviously, which nearly all of mine have. And I think you can go up to 127, I think it is, because it's MIDI. Yes. So the first 127 presets you can, or save sounds, memories, whatever, you can do on you can tell it to do it. And it'll switch automatically. And again, I've done that on the one project I've completed that was started on the 2500. Excuse me. And the reason I mention that is it seems to work better on the X. It was glitchy at times, to the point I didn't do it in the middle of songs on the MPC 2500. Not that way anyway. There was some other way of doing it, which I won't bore you with. But on this one, it seems to work fine. So that's great. So that's an improvement, which is always good. And then the other thing I want to mention before I finish is about handling things. So if I just bring this back in again, so we'll ignore all the knobs and everything else. On the X, you do everything with the data knob, and then when you're ready, you push the button. So you push it, that's how you enter. On the X, this is the data knob, but you press it, it doesn't do anything. You've got to press that center button. Well, there is another enter key. Oh yeah, there. Sorry, I knew there was another one somewhere. You've got an enter key there as well. The numeric keypad is actually good. I was surprised I've actually started using that more. I didn't expect to, because of course one of the things I've run into is I've got into habits on the one, and actually there can be better ways of doing it on the X. I mean, some of them were obvious, like I was saying about the step sequencer and using these knobs here, but some of them are less obvious, and you do get into habits and you don't even realise it. And sometimes it's not even worth changing your habits, because you're used to that way of working and it's faster for you. And I have got used to it, and as I said earlier, I haven't used the one very much since I got the X, and so I'm waiting to see if I stop pressing the button and keep looking for the enter key on the one when I start using it again, because I'm used to not pushing the knob anymore. You do get used to it pretty quickly. It's a bit like driving different cars. It's basically the same thing. It's just little differences. The only other thing I was going to talk about before I close the video, and while I think of it, thank you for watching this if you got this far. This is a definite improvement. It makes it more of a studio machine. This is on the one, you've got a record level gain on the back, and so is the headphone level gain on the back. And I just think it was obviously just done for cheapness. Pain in the ass, basically, especially something like record level that you do want to tweak with the Zool. Headphone levels usually less of an issue. On the X, you've got them on the top here, and the volume for the headphones is on the front where the headphone sockets are, which is another good thing. Rather than your cable have to come across the machine or around the machine, it's actually at the front. The other thing that I haven't done yet, but I'm looking forward to, there's actually 4 inputs on the X, and so what I've done, I've wired the two at the back, numbers 3 and 4, are wired into my mixer, which you can just see the edge of, and so the mix can come straight in to the X, which is quite exciting. And again, I've already worked with that, and it's great fun. But I've also got inputs 1 and 2 on the front, so if ever I have a guitarist visit, or I just want to play something in quickly, I can just whack something in the front and record it. And so yeah, so that's again something I'm looking forward to. And the gain is on the front, no hiding around the back. It's just fab. And the other thing to give a quick mention is these level meters here. This is something you definitely gain from the one. Again, it's there on the one. If you go into let's say channel mixer screen, you have got your levels here, and you'll see the levels. I haven't got any noises on that one. Hang on, sorry, just bear with me a second. There we go.
Will life only does?
Oh dear. You actually get to hear some of my singing. Yes, okay, you can shut up now. You could see all the different bits that did something. But what you, and at this side, this here is your levels. Well, if you want to be on a different, yes, okay, yes, sorry, I shouldn't have pressed that again, should I? So, but if you want to be somewhere else, you've got no indication levels, and you've still got your levels on here, and you can set it to different things. I usually have it on the final mix. Well, that's pretty much all I've ever used it for. I have occasionally noticed on a program that we're redlining, and I've then gone and put a compressor or a compressor limiter on it or something. But those are a definite improvement as well. So there's no one big thing, other than you could probably say the 4 media outs, but there's lots of little things that, yes, this is why the X is 3 times more than the 1. And is it worth it? That's for you to decide for your studio and your situation. If you're not sure if you're going to like working with the software, buy one of the cheaper machines, see if you're going to like it. I mean, you could always sell it on. I'm keeping my one. I love it too much, to be honest. But also, like I say, it's going to be a holiday and a house machine, and then just bring it into the studio if I want to add other synths. And because of course you can still complete songs in the within the one. You know, if it's wholly within the one, there's no external stuff unless you record them as an audio file. You can do the mix down and everything within the one, and I have done that. So it is potentially I could still complete a song within the one. It's, you know, that possibility hasn't gone away. It's just obviously the X brings in a bazillion more possibilities, and I look forward to sharing more music with you on my channel as and when I do more. The first one I've just released, it will be released shortly. I've just been working on the video. Is You Don't Know My Anxieties, and that is the first complete song in the new studio with the X. So, and I'm very pleased with it. So, hope you enjoy it as and when I release it to you. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.